So what you got for me, man? You want to talk about the Olsen Group, and you want to talk about like my experience with them?
Yep. I guess what was your first rental property in Gary, Indiana?
So the very first one that I bought was a three-bedroom, one bath on Massachusetts Street, and I bought it from the Olsen Group after Mark recommended that I use them.
Okay.
And I
And
know.
you,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say I know Mark. I think has bought like nine properties from them, and Jared Stoutmeister is the one that Mark works with the most. Tom Olson's obviously like the founder, but Jared Stoutmeister is who you're gonna like talk to the most when you're trying to buy a property. I know for Mark, he's even been as helpful as like, hey, Mark says, hey, I'm trying to find a place to put some money. I'd love to get a couple properties like this. Is there anything you can do for me? And then Jared will, I don't want to say necessarily shop for him, but really try to like buy a property with Mark in mind, rehab it, put a tenant in there. So they do a real good job of I guess satisfying their customers or trying to help out.
hmm hmm Okay. So first property was with Olsen Group. Did you end up using their property manager?
I did not, and not because I had any negative experiences or anything like that, but I'm very big on getting referrals from people that I trust. And it's not that I don't trust the Olsen Group; they did a great job for me. I'm a big fan, but obviously they have a dog in the fight. Whoever they recommend, they're going to recommend their people. Mark, on the other hand, was using a different property manager, and I decided to use his just because, hey, Mark's telling me this person's good. I trust Mark. Mark has an unbiased opinion in terms of trying to sell me something. He's just trying to help me out. So I was like, all right, I'll use the same property manager as Mark, and I've
Nice.
and I've been pretty happy with her.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, because I don't know if you know now, but the Olsen Group requires that they use or their clients use their referred property manager.
Yeah, I think that's probably smart. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, look, if they're going to find you off-market deals and get you a good value, it just essentially assures them that they're going to continue to have some residual cash flow. I assume that that's probably only for like a year or something like that. Like you have to use them for at least a year. 'Cause I don't
Yep.
think you can legally like force somebody to use somebody. Not that they would, but I mean that just sounds like a smart business strategy to me. I don't think they're trying to twist your arm or anything.
hmm Okay. Um, in terms of Gary, Indiana, what got you over the hurdle of, the most miserable city in the world versus Seattle? Housing prices are expensive, but the appreciation, the
Right.
good areas.
Well,
Uh,
as a police officer in the Seattle area and in King County, which is the county Seattle's located in, I'll tell you, I think Seattle would love to give Gary, Indiana a run for its most miserable city title. It is just rife with homelessness and with street crime and with property crimes. Your cars get broken into, your houses get broken into, your garages get broken into. You're not safe if you go down to the park. You can't take your kids anywhere. There's people camping all over the place. These people are extremely emboldened in terms of they'll just walk right up and offer you illicit substances, ask for money, attack you. I mean, it's not a well run city, unfortunately. Beautiful out here in the Pacific Northwest. Where I live, which is outside of Seattle, beautiful. But unfortunately, what Seattle does, the rest of the state soon does, and it's sad. It's very sad to see it go the way that it's gone. Gary, Indiana. Well, like any responsible adult, obviously you Google, is Gary, Indiana a good place to invest? Or what's Gary, Indiana like? And you're like, wow, this place sucks. I mean, the population's going down, the crime rates are high, it's triple the national average for the poverty rate. Two of the three high schools have been closed in the last few years. If you actually drive through the city, all you see is burnt out house after burnt out house. It's a war zone. It looks like maybe it belongs in the Middle East or a Call of Duty map. It's pretty ugly. So I'm not dumb. I read and looked at all this stuff, and so what got me over the hump as I became friends with Mark, my mentor. I know you've been on his channel, and I watched him buy his first one, and I was skeptical. And his second, his third, his fourth, his fifth, all the way up to like 10, and he was there for like a year and a half investing. I was like, okay, clearly he's figured out the recipe for success in this market. He's finding good deals. They're inexpensive. He's able to make good money off of them. They're being managed well. He's not dealing with a lot of evictions. I asked him, hey, how many evictions have you gone through? And at that point, I don't even think he'd gone through one. Now he's gone through a couple, but that's to be expected when you have 25 rental units. You're going to have to evict somebody. I'm doing an eviction right now. Not from a tenant that I placed, from a tenant I inherited, which is also not uncommon
mhm,
um, in any market. But really, it was okay. Mark only cares about me because we're friends. He's not going to give me bad advice. He's also not giving me advice that he isn't taking. He is successful in this market. He's doing a good job. So, am I missing out on a good opportunity here? Possibly. If I invest out there and if I get it dead wrong and it sucks and whatever, am I going to lose some money? Sure. But if I lose money on a $60,000 house, that's better than a $600,000 house in Seattle, right? My upfront capital to buy that $60,000 house is like 15 grand. To buy it out here, it'd be like 150 grand. So,
It's insane.
right. So I was like, well, I'll take the risk. And once you buy your first one and you start getting it managed and you realize this isn't that hard, this isn't that bad. A friend of mine who's a police officer, his name's Kelvin, he just got his first rental in Hammond, Indiana. And by luck of the draw, and I told him, it could be your first property, like Michael Zuber writes in his book, it could be your first property you end up with an eviction, or it could be 4 years in, 8 units deep, and I finally get my first eviction. It's just part of the process. He buys a property in Hammond, Indiana. The property managers that he's using, unfortunately, they did like some sort of update with their software for screening tenants. The company did. They didn't let the property managers know, and it allowed people with like a background check to be partially completed. So they put someone in there they wouldn't have normally put in there. And
Wow.
that tenant has now caused him problems. And I'm like, dude, it happens. It happens.
Freak accident.
It is. Well, and I don't even know if freak accident's the right word because you have to. The reason you set aside money for vacancies and maintenance every month, things break down, people move out, you have to process evictions. It sucks, but it should be a cost that you factor in. You hope it doesn't happen, but it will happen at some point. And I think personally having a good property manager is one of the best mitigating things you can do to like ameliorate that situation. But at the end of the day, you're still going to deal with evictions.
Hmm. Yep. Still part of the game.
And in any market too. Any market.
Exactly. Okay. Um, I guess you already explained like the difference between the lower barrier to entry market versus the higher barrier to entry market. What about the concept of now this doesn't have to do with Gary, Indiana per se, but higher appreciation versus less cash flow versus higher cash flow, less appreciation.
Right. So one of my friends out here in Washington, his name is Jim Scott. He has a small YouTube channel. He owns a bunch of rental properties in Washington and in Arizona. He's a big time real estate dude. He's a stud. This is one of the arguments that he makes, and it's a good argument. You're buying properties in a crappy area; they're not going to appreciate as much. And appreciation is a very powerful tool. For instance, my duplex that I bought for $450, but it's now valued at $600. Well, guess what? I can take out a home equity line of credit on this duplex now, of like up to like $80,000, and I can use that $80,000 to invest. Well, that is a very powerful tool to have, which you don't get as much in Gary, Indiana. And that's not that the houses don't appreciate, but 10% appreciation on a $60,000 property is only $6 grand. So my property went from 60 to 66. However, where there lies opportunity is buying things under market value, which I have bought 2 properties in Gary, Indiana. One of them I bought for $34,000. I had it appraised shortly after buying it for $65,000. So I picked up 30 grand in equity right there. Another one, right, the duplex I just closed on, $89,000. I haven't had it appraised, but I know what duplexes in the area go for. It could easily go for 120 to 150,000. Right? If we just followed the 1% rule, that duplex will bring in $1,500 a month in rents, which means it could potentially sell for 150,000. So I bought it so far under market value because people are a little more willing to sell at or below market value because it's not as nice of a city. Sometimes sellers just want to get out. There's opportunities to look for under market value properties and buy into a ton of equity. So I can still cash out, refinance, home equity line of credit, but have that lower barrier to entry be something that a benefit I get to take advantage of.
Right. Right. How do the appraisals work if, let's say, it's not as good of an area? Do the appraisals still come in at fair market value?
Yeah, so the appraisal takes that into consideration. The way an appraisal works is they're going to come out of your property. They're going to assess the state your property is in. Is it run down? Is it terrible? Is it modernized? Granite countertops, subway tiles, nice undermount sinks, or is it rental quality, laminate, stainless steel, luxury vinyl plank flooring, or is it like holes in the wall, the roof is collapsing in? So they're going to come out and assess the value of the property, the state of the property. And then they're going to check things like, is it a 3-bed, 1-bath, 2-bed, 1-bath, 4-bed, 2-bath? Then what they do is once they've decided the condition of the property, the age of the property, and the approximate size of the property, they're going to try to compare that to other similar properties in the area that have sold within the last year. So when they come out and assess my rentals in Gary, Indiana, they're going to say it's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath brick house, freshly renovated, 1,000 square feet. Now we're going to look for every 3-bedroom, 1-bath, freshly renovated, 1,000 square foot brick house that's sold in the last year. And they're going to try to get it as close as possible. If they can get the ones that sold in the last 3 months, that's even better. So when you get your appraisal report back, you'll actually see the other properties they compared it to. And then when they pull those properties up, they'll say, okay, this one just sold for 70,000, and then this one over here sold for 68, and this one over here sold for 85. And then they're going to say, all right, the one that sold for 85 was a little bigger, the one that sold for 68 is a little smaller. They're going to average it out and get essentially like a cost per square foot, or like an average value. And then they're going to try to compare your property to those, and that's how they'll assign the appraised value of the house. That's a loose explanation of how the appraisal works. Now, there's ways you can contest it. For instance, you could say, hey, I actually want you to look at these comps that maybe you didn't consider that show the value should be higher, something like that. And you can contest appraisals, though it usually doesn't work very well. But that's how an appraisal works. So when they're comparing my property to others, they're trying to look for very similar recently sold properties they can compare it to.
For $34,000 property that appraised at 60 something, did you do a rehab?
No, I bought it under market value. That was one of the reasons why I was willing to do anything to buy that property, because
Wow.
I know this is why you should know your market. I looked at this thing, I looked at the pictures, and yeah, of course it needs a little bit of work. The tenant, I was going to inherit the tenant with it. Needs a little bit of work, but not a ton. I mean, I could probably put in less than $10,000 of remodeling into that when that tenant moves out, and it'll be pristine and beautiful, right? But I knew that its current state and its location, and based on relevant comps in the area, that this should be worth, I thought it'd be worth maybe 70 grand. I was hoping for 70,000 because that was what I ran my numbers at for doing a cash out refinance or a HELOC. And it appraised for 65, which again made my cash out refinance not quite as desirable. But at the end of the day, I bought it because I did the appraisal like 2 months later. I bought it for $31,000 under market value. Now, why would someone sell me that property? The guy who I bought it from owns hundreds of properties. Some of them he bought for $5,000 or $10,000 back during the recession. So, in his mind, and this is something that a lot of people struggle with, you hear it probably where you live, people who are selling their houses or talking about the value of their house. Yeah, I bought my house for $300, now it's worth $600. I can't believe anyone would pay $600. It's not worth $600. Well, in his mind, it's still only worth the 10 grand he bought it for. So when he's sitting there saying, wow, I can't believe I bought that for 10 and I could now sell it for 30. It's not even worth 30. He's not thinking to himself, well, maybe I could get 50 or 60 or 70. He's like, yeah, dude, I already tripled my money. I'll sell that. So he's not necessarily doing, and when you have that many rentals and he's selling off 50 at a time, he's probably not doing his due diligence on every single one of them to get the true correct value of those houses. And so what I had was an opportunity to buy a house under market value. And then again, almost a year later with a duplex under market value.
Wow, what a deal.
Yes, both times.
Yeah, both times. Duplex, same thing? No rehab?
Yeah, so the duplex, he had initially listed it for $79,000. Then a tenant moved out. They remodeled that unit the tenant was in. They put $10,000 into it, and then they raised the price from 79 to 89. And even still at 89, I'm sitting there knowing duplexes in this area that are this approximate size and all this type of stuff should be $120,000 bare minimum. They should be 120. This is 90. I will do anything I can, even if it doesn't cash flow great. I'm buying immediately day one, getting 30 grand worth of equity. I'll figure out the cash flow later, and it did cash flow great. It still gave me a 20% return as I made a video on it. But even if it hadn't, buying $30,000 worth of equity is a good position to be in. Remodel it, get it whatever you need to cash flow better later. If you can just all of a sudden get 30 grand worth of equity, that's a reward in and of itself.
Yeah, in one deal.
Yeah.
Have you done a rehab?
Let's see here. I mean, I've done like small repairs. I haven't done a full rehab on anything. In my duplex here in Seattle, I like redid the kitchens and bathrooms, but it was just countertops and sinks. I haven't done like a full gut remodel, like flooring and all that type of stuff. I try to buy most things fully remodeled because, a lot of people look, okay, I want to buy the house and I want to take another loan out to do the remodel. Okay, so now you've got two loans, you're servicing two different debts. Or how much is this extra loan to remodel, time, interest going to take? What if I just add that to my original budget? So instead of a $40,000 house and a $20,000 remodel, why don't I just get a $60,000 budget and buy a house that's already remodeled? It's a little bit easier. That's what I've been doing because again, remodel costs, labor costs going up, and supply chain shortages, things can get delayed. You run into unexpected problems. I'd rather buy the house that already ran into all of the unexpected problems. Somebody else paid to fix them. Get a good inspection to make sure they paid to fix them instead of paid to cover them up, and then just buy that remodeled home. Right now, I'm at the point where I think I'm going to dip my toe into some remodel cash out strategies, but that's because I have enough money and experience and enough of a network and a team to feel comfortable trying it.
Mm-hmm. Right. I would say for like the first time buyer like me, the turnkey is it sounds attractive.
Yes, I agree. Turnkey is a good idea. My friend Darius just bought his first rental, not a turnkey, but he bought it freshly remodeled, no tenant in it. What makes it different is that a turnkey has the tenant in it, intentionally sold to investors. But any brand new remodeled house, of course, have an inspection done, and you're going to want to talk to the property manager about what you think it'll rent for ahead of time. I can also give you a good idea if you're looking in that area. But yeah, a freshly remodeled house or a turnkey property, probably the best, safest bet of like your first rental property. That's how Mark did it. That's how I did it. That's how Caleb did it. That's how a lot of people have done it out in that area.
For Darius, I don't think we went over it in Mark's video, but did he have like boots on the ground, property management team, inspection team,
Oh
agent?
yeah, he used all the same people we use. We hooked him up. Same thing we'll do for you, man. Yeah, I mean, he used Mackenzie, who was my real estate agent, who I just did 2 interviews with, and I'm gonna upload those in the next couple of days here, so you can like watch those. Her and her husband do an interview. They're both agents; they work together. So he used our property manager, our real estate agent. I'm sure he used the same home inspector that I've used, which is Hawk Home Inspection. So yeah, my team is your team, is his team. You know, I'm not gonna lie or like not. All the people that do work with me love that I give them referrals. It's good
Right.
business for them, and they know that if they don't do a good job for anyone I've referred to them, they could potentially lose the business that I bring them, which I don't get any type of kickback. I only bring them business because I trust them and trust them to help out people I care about. So it's a pretty good setup because if you use them and something goes wrong, it probably really wasn't their fault. And they're probably going to bend over backwards to try to help and make it right. But like essentially, our investment group represents a significant amount of their income at this point because we do so much work for them. They don't want to piss us off, which means
Yeah.
they'll do anything they can to keep us happy, which is a good place for us to be at.
Yep. Wow. Wow. Yeah. I'm just discovering. Let's say it was maybe 4 months ago, 5 months ago. Maybe I hit you up on Snapchat,
Mm-hmm.
and I think at that time you're invested in Gary, Indiana, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'd already owned stuff there. Yeah.
Yeah. So then now I'm just discovering this large investor group for such a niche
Right.
area
Right.
of just investors, which is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought I'd discover something like that over YouTube.
Networking is probably the most important part when it comes to investing in real estate. You can know how to do the numbers. You can, you can even know how to inspect the property. Maybe you think you know how to find a good tenant, but really at the end of the day, it comes down to knowing other people you can bounce ideas off of, get trusted referrals from, and people who can hype you up. Because, dude, your first rental, you could end up buying something where someone remodeled it poorly and now you're stuck with a bill and you're gonna be like, dude, I failed, I messed up, I screwed up, I should quit. That's Michael Zuber's story in his first book. I don't know if you've read it. He failed with his first rental, but it wasn't his fault. He just happened to get the tenant who he had to then evict, and it sucked. But now he owns 200 rentals and a popular YouTube channel, and he's written a couple of books. Like, he could have quit after the first one, but he kept going. My friend Kelvin, he's going through an eviction. It sucks. I hope he doesn't quit. I don't think he will. I think he understands that like he did everything right. It's just sometimes crappy things happen. The water heater could go out the day you buy it. The tenant that you put in there could need to be evicted. That's just part of the process. So accept it, plan for it, expect it, and then when it doesn't happen, be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. In terms of eviction, is there like you have to have a lawyer?
So yeah, that's a great question. The eviction I'm going through right now, my property manager Vicky, I couldn't even believe this. She goes, yeah, so the eviction fee is like $525. I was like, that's it?
Yeah.
Like
What?
multiply that by 10 out here in Washington, right? And then I was like, okay, and then what do I got to pay the lawyer? She's like, oh no, that is the lawyer. I was like, what? I don't got to pay like a fee to the court and the lawyer? That's it? All wrapped up together? That's it? She's like, yeah. She's like, and I charge $25 to represent you in court. I was like, 25 bucks? 25? Out here, some property manager be like, oh, it's gonna be like $2,500 for me to allocate my time for my employees together. I was like, yeah, okay. Like, man, I'm not. It's not that I want evictions to happen, but dang, that is dirt cheap compared to what I'm like used to in this area for what things would cost. And I'm like, of course I don't want to do an eviction, but it only takes like 3 to 6 weeks. It's gonna cost you $600. You get to write all of that off on your taxes. And, at the end of the day, you get them out of there and you get somebody else in there that's better. So it sucks, it's part of the process, but man, it's a heck of a lot better than doing it in California or
Yep.
Seattle. Gross.
That's exactly what they mean by invest in landlord-friendly states.
Right. And, I dislike that term a little bit because it makes it seem like there's states that favor tenants and care about them, and then there's states that favor landlords. It's not that they favor landlords, it's that they're fair to landlords. Landlord fair states. You still have to do the right, like I can't just evict somebody because I don't like them. Like they have to not pay. We have to post notices. We have to give them an opportunity. We're not treating these people poorly. It's just that the government isn't saying, yeah, we know they aren't paying and that they're not upholding their end of the contract, but we're still going to give them 6 months to do whatever they want,
Yeah.
and then we'll kick them out. Like, no. So it's a landlord fair state.
Right.
I'm not
Right.
asking for special treatment. I would just like to be treated fairly instead of unfairly like I am in Washington.
Yeah. Same in California. It's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, San Francisco too.
Yeah, man. Yeah, just we know why these states are landlord not friendly, but we won't go down that route. So it just is what it is.
I think that answers most of my questions.
Well, cool, dude. I mean, I appreciate you. I appreciate you reaching out. Like I said, I'm always happy to answer anything you got on Instagram. We can chat. You know, I mean, I do get busy. Lots of people message me, so if I don't get back to you, just message me again. So, and then I'll try to follow up. But yeah, if you got nothing else, man, I guess let me know when you get your first rental so we can talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been looking on Zillow myself and just trying to find like areas to invest in. There's some properties ranging from like 120. And I was trying to look in that area to see if I could find something lower.
And where is this at?
Right around 4th Street and Harrison.
And this is in Gary.
Gary.
And
Yeah.
what's the price point?
Between anywhere between low 80 and I mean some are 200, but I don't think I'd go for that.
There are some nicer areas of Gary where you can get like more reasonable houses. Usually those are on the outskirts as you get closer to other better cities, or maybe like lakefront property. Yeah, man. I mean, I look for 3 bedroom, 1 bath houses, or 2 bedroom, but like a nice finished attic or basement. That could be a third bedroom. So 3 bedroom, 1 bath houses around 1,000 square feet, ideally brick, but siding doesn't matter. I just got on one with regular siding. Built in like the 50s, 60s, or 70s that go between $60,000 to $100,000. That's my price point I'm looking at, and that's the style I'm looking at. And double it for a duplex. If you can find a duplex, then it'd be 60 to 100 or 120 to like $200,000. Depending if you have a duplex. And those are going to rent for $900 to $1,100 a month. They're going to not be the 1% rule. It's going to be like the 1.3% or the 1.4% rule. They're going to cash flow $250 or more a month. It's going to end up being around $3,500 a year, and your cash on cash return is going to range between like 15 and 20%. They're pretty easy to find. Just keep looking. Time is on your side. You'll get one. You'll find one. So just make sure. Have you gotten approved? Have you gotten like a pre-approval letter from a lender yet?
I have, but that was a while ago. I'd have to get a new one.
Okay. Who are you using?
Some lending company in California. I
Okay.
think it was like SoCal.
If you like them and they'll do a good job for you, use them. The lending company that we use is Prime Lending.
Yep.
Mark, Caleb, Darius, myself, we've all used Prime Lending. They do a good job. They know us. They know what we're looking for. They know our strategies. They know our systems. So if you would like their contact info, by all means use them. And I also always encourage people to get multiple different quotes because you'll be surprised at how different, like 3 different companies, and they could give 3 different interest rates, and one be like, yeah, you're qualified for 300,000. The other one's like, nah, you're only qualified for 100. And you'd be like, how is there such a big change from these companies? So, but yeah, if I were you, I would at least get a couple. I would get a new letter because if you find that deal, you want to be able to jump on it. So I would get a new pre-qual letter and let your lender know you're actively looking, because when you're ready to make an offer, you're going to want that lender to type up a letter for that specific property. You don't want to let the property seller know I'm qualified for 300 grand and I'm buying a $60,000 property, and then you send a letter saying I'm qualified for up to 300. You want your lender to write, we will finance him for this $60,000 property, so that the seller maybe is thinking, oh, I don't know, if it comes and appraises low, he may not get the financing for it, so maybe we should just accept it. You don't want to show your hand, essentially. Let them know how much money you have to spend, because that just puts you in a worse negotiating spot.
Okay. Thank you.
So yeah, no problem, man. You got any other questions?
I don't think so. Lending. There's the area. Searching for the property. Property management. That's about it. Yeah.
Perfect, man. You know where to find me if you have any other questions, and if not, then I guess I'll just talk to you later.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
All right, dude. I'll talk to you
Catch you
later.
later.
Yeah, bye.